As soon as the team gets clear and gives you some space, you should be unplugged.
Great. Thanks, sir.
Mic on. We start. Go.
All right, go ahead.
Welcome, welcome. Gather round for a show of true marvel. What shall you like to hear tonight? The tale of the Sunflower Maiden? How about the horrible monster and freckle-faced fool? Or perhaps you'd like to hear a story of one of your own. A lesser-known tale of a traveler who left these parts and discovered wonders. This is Pareidolia. Hi guys, I'm Chris, the art director of Pareidolia, and speaking of freckle-faced fools and horrible monsters, this is the rest of my team.
I'm Alec McNamara, and I'm the lead designer for Pareidolia.
Hi guys, I'm Jordan Klein. I'm the lead producer for Pareidolia.
And I'm Josh Sturika, lead engineer.
Pareidolia is...
It won't cut into your time. Have a little...
Pareidolia is the imagined perception of a pattern or meaning where one does not actually exist. With our game, we wish to capture the sort of aha moments that we had as children when we looked into the sky and recognized an alligator in the clouds or tried to find a man on the moon. In these moments of Pareidolia, the reality of what you see is unimportant. Rather, the importance lies in what you believe you see. So what is Pareidolia the game? Pareidolia is a 2D, 3D puzzle platformer being developed in Unity for Mac and PC. Players become a shadow puppeteer and manipulate objects in the 3D world to cast shadows on which they can platform in the 2D world. So here's a quick prototype to demonstrate our most basic mechanics. So firstly, players start in a three-dimensional world and they have props on a stage which they can move in and out, back and forward, casting shadows on which in the 2D world they can platform. However, with the current arrangement of shadows, they can't reach the objective. Going back into the 3D world, if the player were to grab the rightmost box and move it towards the light, it casts a bigger shadow. And finally, in the 2D world, the player can reach the objective solving the puzzle.
Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You've seen this before in games like contrast and shadow physics, but what these games don't have and what our prototype doesn't show is the sensation, the aha moment of bringing a world to life with your perceptions.
So we're bringing the world to life. Not only are the 2D shadows a higher fidelity in the 2D world, but they are also a higher behavioral fidelity as well. So for example, a sphere in the 3D world that casts the shadow of a simple circle, in the 2D world it becomes a boulder which the 2D player character can push and pull and acts as though as you would expect a boulder to act. Also, because we can rotate shadows, we can rotate objects in the three-dimensional world, as you would expect, the shadows that they would cast could be vastly different things. And because they're coming to life in the 2D world, they can represent many, many different objects. So for example, a cylinder facing the camera can be rotated to become something more useful, like a bridge for our 2D player character to cross. So in Pareidolia, the point of transition is very important, because this is where the aha moment that we wish to capture lies. The 3D world doesn't give the player an indication as to what the 2D world is going to become. So that transition is this sort of aha moment that the players will have when they transition into the 2D world. But we don't want to create this sort of frustrating guess and check system to solve puzzles. So what we've designed is that any object that you're currently manipulating in the three-dimensional world will cast its eventual shadow manifestation. So we'd like to just show you a puzzle that we've designed.
Okay, hey guys, so this is the 3D world. It looks plain and boring. So notice on the outskirts we have immovable stage scaffolds, and in the middle we have a red plank and a heavy metal box. But let's go into the 2D world and see what this aha moment is. Notice we're now in a fantastic bakery. The plank has become a conveyor belt, and you can barely see over there because lighting. The box has become a cage with a spring on it, The character is in the bottom left, and the torch objective is in the top right. But let's go back to the 3D world, and let's start by selecting the plank, and notice once we rotate it, it casts a shadow of a ladder. Let's put that ladder down, then go back into the 2D world and climb up top of it. Now, let's go back into the 3D world and grab that box we had and move it up into the scaffold, so for the player in the 2D world can push that weakened cage down, causing it to break, releasing a spring, which in the 3D world manifests as an accordion, which will then move out, so the player in the 2D world can then platform to the objective on the top of the birthday cake.
So let's talk a little bit about some more mechanics that we didn't cover in the puzzle. So not every single object in Pareidolia will cast a solid opaque shadow. A glass cube, for example, will be able to hold up other props in the 3D world, but the shadow it casts will be fainter, allowing the player to move through these shadows. In the same vein, the player will also be able to change the translucency of some objects. In this example, the player is standing on the edge of a body of water that they can't cross over because the shadow it casts is too light. But by going back into the 3D world and adding a vial of ink to the water, the shadow it casts becomes black and opaque, and the player can move across the surface. Another fun idea we had was free-floating platforms like clouds or balloons. Stuff like this will allow us to play around with our platforming mechanics more and make them a little more complex. Sound design is also very important in Pareidolia. In the 3D world, the player is basically putting on a puppet shadow show, or shadow puppet show, and no show is complete without an audience. As such, we want to implement a dynamic audio-based audience feedback system. If the player is doing well in placing things in the correct position, the audience will get excited and ooh and ah. But if the player is a little bit off the mark or not quite getting it, the audience will grow restless. In this way, the audience feedback will not only deepen player immersion, it will also act as a hint system.
Pareidolia is ultimately about the discovery of wonders and the most unlikely of things. How well do you guys know Baba Yaga, the Slavic witch who lives in a chicken leg hut, or the haunted city of Brass from 1001 Arabian Nights? Pareidolia explores folklore from across the world, and our goal is to expose players to an often underrepresented aspect of our heritage, all the while letting them discover the forgotten wonders within them. So in the 3D world, players are a shadow puppeteer putting on the events of the show, and in the 2D world, they're acted out by a globe-trotting hooded traveler on the quest to receive Baba Yaga's gift. In Pareidolia, chicken leg huts, spring-heeled tricksters, and forgotten cities come to life. Narrative in Pareidolia is delivered in between levels through storybook illustrations told by an omniscient voice. In addition to main story, we have extra pages hidden throughout levels where players can collect them and learn more about the culture they're exploring, and folktales like Jenny Green Tea. Artistically, I've always been influenced by Dr. Seuss and his expressive freedom, and my intent is to leave this game with the same ideas. A main influence of this game so far has been Lottie Reiniger's 1920s Prince Ahmed, and other influences have been Ivan Earle's work on Sleeping Beauty and Alexis Little's work on Harry Potter. And as you can tell from the concept work throughout our slides, we've had a great time bringing this world to life, and we're just really excited with the more possibilities it offers.
So, sorry artists, but it's time to talk engineering. So, we've identified sort of three main engineering challenges that we're going to have to overcome. First of all, Pareidolia's design calls for two separate worlds, 2D and 3D. Now that means two sets of gameplay, two sets of controls, and two sets of physics. And although the worlds are very different, they're still intricately connected, so that makes the task even more complex. Also, shadow rendering. Shadows lie at the heart of Pareidolia's gameplay and aesthetics. And historically, shadows are hard to get right in games. Also, we want to spend a lot of time on our graphics to create a unique and engaging visual experience. This will include creating our own custom shaders to produce effects like ink and water, like I mentioned earlier. So, while we are developing in Unity right now, we have not given up the ideal of Unreal Engine 4. But we are heavily leaning to Unity right now because, like Unreal, Unity makes it easier to produce a professional quality game, and at the same time gives us a 2D editor and 2D built-in physics, which will be very useful. So here's a quick look at our production plan. The main thing to really take away from this is that by spring demo day, we hope to have 18 different puzzles across 3 different cultures. And as you can see, here's our current team. It is a multidisciplinary team, and many of us have previous experience with advanced game projects. I was the previous lead engineer on Thralled, and Jordan is the lead producer on Bloom. Our expected team size is 25 to 30 people, and we feel that with this breakdown, we will have everything that we need to make Pareidolia the game we know it can be.
So at the end of the day, Pareidolia is about challenging perception. It's about seeing the world in a new light, and it's about the rediscovery of childlike wonder in the most unlikely of places. Thanks for listening to our presentation, and we all hope you would like to see this game made as much as we'd like to make it.